Welcome to the first episode of Joy Coffee TV. Each week we're going to be showcasing a range of different speciality coffees from different speciality roasters, starting with the UK but hopefully worldwide too. As you can see, the three coffees in front of me, we've got first one, which is kind of like a yellowy, very colourful design on the front. Next one, bit more berries maybe going on in there from this colour, and this one definitely kind of a mixture of the two. So basically the idea behind the packaging is that instead of having your traditional flavour notes on your bag of specialty beans, these guys are collaborating with artists to illustrate the coffee in a way that's going to engage with the customer a lot more. So this first coffee is classic Ethiopian filter coffee. So Ethiopia is where coffee originated from, and this was produced by Asta Teki Adbebi, roasted by Assembly Coffee, and illustrated with Michael Cleland. Shout out to you, Michael, thanks for these coffees, this is ace. Next one we've got produced by Louis F. Dariaga. It's again roasted by Assembly, of course, and illustrated by Dave Larson. There we go. So this one is a Colombian coffee, and whereas the first one is a washed process, this one is a natural, so it's a bit more funky, it's not as clean tasting, but these are both filter coffees. Okay, so we're going to try these in a few minutes with the different filter coffee methods we've got here. This last one is actually an espresso, so I love a good espresso, I love a good filter too, but for me you can't beat the traditional kind of classic espresso, nice body, good acidity, good sweetness, all well balanced. And this is, I'm really looking forward to trying because it's from El Salvador, one of my favourite origins. This is also known as a single origin because it's from one farm in El Salvador. It was produced by Roberto Ulloa, again roasted by Assembly and illustrated with Michael Cleland. A bit about what I think about the packaging now. So all of these coffees are beautifully presented. They're all 250 grams net weight, which I think is a really good size. Last you a couple of weeks if you're drinking coffee every day. The logo is super nice on the side, super artistic. What's really nice is that the packaging for the actual beans is recyclable and the box is compostable, so it's just really good, I think, to be thinking about sustainable things with coffee. What's perhaps I would like to change if I could, what is the ease of use to getting in. So the sticker's great, it's got all the information, where it's roasted, the roast date, that's really important, who produced it and who illustrated the box, but it's a little bit hard to get into, so just one thing that I think. Okay, so now we're going to brew some coffee up. We've got 3 different coffees today. I'm really excited to try them all. We're going to use a different brew method for each coffee. So with the first Ethiopian, I'm going to use the V60 method, which comes from Japan. It's made by a company called Hario, and it's called V60 because of the 60-degree angle. It's basically a pour-over method of brewing. So you use quite a medium thick filter paper, which you just pop in the top. And I'd always recommend giving it a rinse just before putting the coffee in, as it kind of gets rid of the papery taste that you don't really want in your coffee. So while that's happening, we have just ground some coffee in here, and it smells super nice. It's definitely the classic floral, like bergamot tea, kind of Earl Grey. It's just really, as a filter coffee, I think Ethiopian is something that is quite approachable but also really different. It's quite like tea-like, quite delicate. Yep, so that smells awesome. So what we're going to do, we're just going to measure 15 grams, pop it in, and then next step is just to level it off, and then we're going to use my phone this time. Just going to start the timer, pour just about double the weight of the initial coffee we put in, so just over, so there's a bit of water to soak up, and make sure we kind of evenly stir those grinds quite quickly so they're all wet and saturated, because that's going to help with evenness as the coffee falls through. So we let that sit for about 30 seconds, and then we get ready to pour again. I always recommend to use water that's boiling, if near to boiling, and then as you pour into the coffee, the water will be about 94 degrees, which is good for extraction. just getting all those flavours out into the cup. I'm just going to pour in steady circles outwards, at high enough to give turbulence to the coffee. Again, it just helps with extraction. And we're going to make sure we pour to a water weight that matches our starting coffee weight. So for a traditional 60 gram per litre brew, that's about 250 ml. Just going to give it a tap down, again flatten out that bed. I like to just stir things as well, just keep things moving. Great, so that's the V60. So as that brews, I'll tell you a little bit about what flavours we can look to get. So as I said, like bergamot tea and everything you can see on this basically. So that's kind of a nice visual display. I love the V60 because you get like a really balanced cup of coffee, as well as like a nice acidity. It's not too heavy in the mouth, but you do get kind of a nice, just a nice interesting cup of coffee. So V60. Next we're going to move on to the Clever Dripper, which is a really cool brewing device. It's quite clever, as the name suggests. Basically, as you put the water in, you can let it sit just on any surface. I could do that now. So again, I'm just going to rinse the filter paper. As you can see, no water's coming out, which is kind of nice. So it's just a really effective way of brewing coffee if you're short on space. It's a little bit like brewing a cafetiere if it had a lid, a little bit. Anyway, now I'm just going to grind the next coffee. So as we remember, this is the Colombian coffee. So Colombian is a bit more kind of chocolatey, a bit more. It's what everyone thinks of when you think coffee, mainly because of the man with a hat that was made famous from it. But yeah, I'm just going to grind this up and then I'll be right back. So just ground my Colombian single origin. This one is called La Claudina. Yeah, a lot more nuts, a lot more going on, more forefront kind of on the nose. But yeah, I'm going to brew it up in the Clever Dripper. So I'm using the same weight as I did with the V60, just so we can kind of really compare, how the different coffees taste. If you can see from the grinds, it's super light. So really excited to try this. I mean, it's literally like so light. I love a light roast. So if you're roasting light, then you get more acidity, more kind of unique flavors. Whereas a darker roast, you'll get more caramelization and more bitterness. So anyway, I'm just going to brew the coffee. So yeah, I'm just going to same process. Just over 30 ml for a little bloom, and then make sure it's all properly stirred. See, any dry grounds that aren't mixed with the water at this stage are going to under extract, so we want to make sure that they're all nice and wet. So 30 seconds, and then again I'm just going to breaking up any clumps in the coffee. While this is happening, while this is happening, the water's just going to sit as opposed to come through. With the V60, there we go. With the V60, it will come through straight away, and of course with the Clever Dripper, we can just let it sit without pouring through. This is not what I planned, but there we go. We keep going. So I'm just going to pour to 250 mils. And then let it sit. Great. I recommend about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes for brewing a filter, maybe 3 if you like a bit more body, a bit more bitterness. Personally, I like as little bitterness as possible. So it's all about really getting the grind size right. So for a Clever Dripper and a V60, you want like a medium fine filter grind basically, so it's a little bit finer than sand. And then once it's brewed, you can just let it come through and it's going to taste great. Okay, if we just come back to the Ethiopian. Yep, That's really nice. It's kind of, it's definitely got that like lemon at the sides. Definitely like tea. It's not too heavy in the mouth. And the finish is really sweet, so it just leaves you wanting more, basically. With this classic Ethiopian, nice one assembly. We're coming up to 2.5 minutes, so I want more of that. That is really good. Alright, so 2:20, get ready to disembark on our coffee voyage with a clever dripper. These scales I'm using are called O-House scales. They're really cool. Basically, you can just pop your item you're weighing on and then just wave the sensor with your hand and it will just tear instantly. So I use these when I'm brewing espresso. Like, you can put the whole portafilter on and not have to worry about taking baskets out and that kind of thing. And they do look super scientific and geeky, but that's always fun, right? So, okay, so we've done Ethiopian, Colombia's brewing. I'm just going to grind the last one, which is in El Salvador. Right, so house espresso. This is something I'm really looking forward to now. Yeah, you can clearly see the kind of lighter flavours on the side of the illustration here, and then the kind of deep berry-like flavours in the middle. So thank you, Roberto and Assembly. So we're going to just preheat our rock portafilter, and this is something I'd always recommend when you're brewing espresso. Basically, it's important to keep the basket hot. So we don't want to under extract our coffee, so if it's too cold, then it's going to give sourness, and we don't want that. So it's going to pour in our pre-ground espresso, and I'm going to go for kind of a full basket of about 13 grams. Okay, so just about to brew our rock espresso. It's a little bit different to your traditional espresso, obviously, because it's not an espresso machine, rather a hand pumped espresso machine. So we're not going to have as much body, but we are still going to be able to get the flavours out of the coffee, and it's something that's cool for the kitchen if you need a quick, espresso-like process. So what we can do is make sure there's nothing in there first. Great. Just going to put the water in about halfway. We're using about 13 grams of coffee. This lovely El Salvador from Assembly, and then quite simply just pop your cup underneath and pump it. So once again, I'd always suggest going to your local specialty coffee shop if you want that true espresso experience. But today I wanted to try something a bit different. Right, there we are. Now, let's see how it tastes. It's okay, it's okay. Okay, so perhaps not what I was expecting. There's some kind of stone fruit in the middle, which is really nice. It's very light. The thing is with the rock, you don't really, because there's not 9 bars of pressure coming through on the water on top of the puck, you kind of lose that thickness of the crema. So it's all kind of a bit, wishy-washy, but I finished it, so it's not too bad. Great, so we're just going to come back to our Colombian and see how we did. As you can see from the clever dripper, it's super flat bed. So if you are doing pour overs or using clever drippers, it's always really good if you can aim for that. It just shows that the extraction's been nice and even, nice and level. It's not always the easiest thing, but it's great when you get it. Let's see how it tastes. So Colombian, this was the La Claudina. It's a natural filter. It's going to be a bit more funky. Some people are not really into naturals. They think they're not really pushing the coffee industry forward. I can agree with that, but I think if you want a variety of flavour and If you're looking for something a bit different, then don't disregard naturals. You can get some great ones. Right. Definitely more funky than the Ethiopian. Certainly not as upfront in the acidity. It's a nice smooth body, nice side of the mouth again. I definitely get the berries. The berries is nice. Oh no, sorry. But yeah, I think there's a clear winner for today's show. So the winner of today's coffee, Joy Coffee TV, is of course the Ethiopian, and it's the Giddy from Assembly Roasters. Of course, Assembly were always going to win today's show, but yeah, if you want to check them out, they're located in Brixton, London. Michael Cleland, shout out to you once again. Right, so giveaway time. We've got a super nice tote bag from Assembly Coffee Roasters based in Brixton. Super nice size, really high quality, really durable. To win it, all you got to do is comment on the YouTube comment section below which coffee you would have liked to have tried and why, and then we'll pick a winner based on the best response. So just thanks for watching the first ever episode of Joy Coffee TV. We're going to be doing this hopefully every week with a range of different roasters from around the UK and beyond. If you want to try my coffee, and I'm based in Lincoln, come and find me. You'll know where it is because Lincoln's a very small place. There'll be more competitions in the future, so keep watching Joy Coffee TV. Thanks for your input and goodbye.